Warm, warm welcome to this focus session with us today. We are super excited to see so many of you here. And we hope that today's focus session will emphasize our shared mission that we have with Women in Tech, which is to encourage as many women as possible to engage in this exhilarating sector, the tech sector. I am Charlotta Kvarnström. I'm a partner at EY, and I lead technology, media, and telecommunications for EY Nordics. My colleague, Barbara Wozniak, and myself are going to talk you through a couple of different perspectives of AI today. So when the possibilities for AI are infinite, where do you focus? We will start by talking you through some of the facts and figures of where we actually are today. So what is the status of Gen AI adoption and implementation? And I'm going to use a couple of our global thought leadership studies to help us navigate that. Barbara is then going to talk you through the path to value and how to get there. And we're going to share some of our lessons learned from our own EY Client Zero, our own EY AI journey. And then I will be super excited to invite up on stage a brilliant group of panelists, and we are going to dive even deeper into these subjects. So, where are we today? And I'm going to start by giving an enterprise perspective on this question. Every year, we conduct a global thought leadership study called Reimagining Industry Futures, where we ask enterprises globally about their intentions, their behaviors, and investment plans regarding emerging technology. And of course, we're going to double down on Gen AI today. I will call out two things first. Number one is that of all global enterprises today, 47% are currently investing in Gen AI. And Nordic companies, the corresponding number is 37%. So we're lagging in terms of investments. The other thing I want to call out is that Nordic CEOs, only 26% of Nordic CEOs influence the emerging technology strategy of their companies. The corresponding number for global enterprises is 49%, so that's quite a big, significant difference. And a third aspect is something we saw already last year, and that is that Nordic enterprises are more risk-avert, more risk-aware around Gen AI, while at the same time not proactively addressing that risk with a proactive, holistic risk governance, while that action is the most prioritized action globally, creating a hampering effect on adoption and implementation. If we look at the wider definition of AI, 61% of enterprises globally are investing, and 51% of Nordic companies are. And of all of the investments that we currently are doing globally, 99% are still proof of concepts and pilots. We have estimated that by the end of this year, we will have invested $200 billion in Gen AI. And with 99% of those investments still geared in proof of concepts and pilots, the return on investment is very low. So what are some of the obstacles and challenges that enterprises cite to hindering them from more AI adoption? Well, the first one is cybersecurity and data protection concerns. The second is complexity of integration with other emerging technologies. So how will Gen AI integrate with other data and analytics initiatives, with IoT initiatives, with 5G or quantum initiatives? The third obstacle is how does this all integrate with the overall technology roadmap? How will that agentic AI solution that we implement today What impact will that have on the CRM system that's supposed to go live in 1 year from now? How can we potentially reallocate capital to have a quicker go-to-market, more return on investment on the agentic AI solutions that we implement today? This is then followed by return on investment concerns, low understanding of use cases, and the AI supplier ecosystem. A couple of weeks ago, we launched our global AI sentiment study. This is looking at AI from a people and consumer perspective, looking at experiences, expectations, and usage. The last 6 months, 82% of people globally have used Gen AI in one way or the other. The corresponding number for Swedes are 75%. And as you can see, we're quite low down in that list. And if you look closer, you see at the upper part of the list consists of Asian and Eastern countries, and the lower part of the list is Western countries. 78% of Swedes are concerned about AI-generated misinformation. That corresponding number globally is 75%, so still quite a big number also globally, so there's a concern in general. When we ask if people believe that AI will have a positive impact on their lives and society, 45%, less than half, say that they believe it will. That number globally is 57%. Swedes have the highest trust in tech companies when it comes to managing and handling Gen AI. Although they believe tech companies are best suited to do that, it's still only 35% of Swedes that believe so, compared to 49% globally. So where do we engage? Where does the highest potential sit? If we look at the left, the enterprise perspective of things, cross-industry, the highest potential is believed to be in software development, customer experience, employee training, product design, and content creation. Where people have engaged globally the last 6 months is, first of all, customer experience. It's their private lives. That can be, for example, financial information, health information, education, learning, and then every tools they use in their professional lives, followed by tech and media. So what we can conclude is that, first of all, there's a divide between the willingness to engage and actual usage. There's clearly a concern around trust. So both from an enterprise and people consumer perspective, it's fundamental that we do put that holistic, proactive risk governance in place and communicate transparently around the products and solutions that we're offering enabled by Gen AI. And as you could see, we had a divide between East and West. So, how do we unlock the value? When Barbara and myself meet our clients in the market, the most common questions we get is, first of all, where should I invest and how much? Where is the highest potential and how much should I invest? And then the question is, what impact will this have on the overall technology roadmap, on the upskilling needs of our people, and on data governance and data quality? So, Barbara, tell us, how do we holistically approach this?
Thank you, Charlotta. And looking at the study results, I think it is super good and great to see that many of us have been using AI in our daily lives, and that also we are aware users. But the key is, like, how do we move from this, like, primarily experimenting and trying out things to actually also delivering meaningful impact with AI? And speaking with many of you today, and also in my daily role with executives, I have to say that there is no doubt that there is this genuine curiosity about the potential that AI has. However, what I would really like to see, and actually I would really love to encourage you to contribute to that, is truly moving the narrative about AI from being this very specialized area that only tech experts can solve for us all, to actually seeing it more as a business enabler. And why is it so important? Because when we shift that narrative, it is becoming very clear that each of us has a role to play, that we all need to learn, we all need to engage. Whether we are in business, maybe tech, risk, sustainability, we all need to take that active ownership because this change will impact us all. And why is it so important? So I have to say, engaging with many clients on the topic of AI strategy, but also value creation, I started seeing certain patterns on like what happens when different competencies get engaged in the AI agenda, and how does it impact actually both the value delivered, but also the perception on AI itself. And for companies that I have interacted with that had like super engaged business teams, like lots of ideas, they knew where the potential was, but capability to actually build those solutions and drive change was not truly there. What I typically see is this like super excitement in the beginning that then fades because hundreds of ideas never go past experimentation. And I think to the point that you were mentioning, Charlotta, like the study actually showed that it's still 99% of companies that are still at this proof of concept and pilot stage. But then what happens when we have amazing tech team, amazing data expertise, but actually the business is not really engaged, maybe there's not enough organizational buy-in. What you end up is so-called cool AI solutions. So they're like definitely cool, don't get me wrong, but very often we don't see this like strategic link and like why was it truly prioritized considering that specific business. And last but not least, what happens when companies are really focused on change? There is like a lot of learning, and that is great, but if it doesn't go with the vision and actually capabilities to build things that are suited for that specific business, what we typically get is some upskilling, but maybe more like incremental change in the ways of working. However, what is really, really impressive to see is that like for companies that bring all this talent together, all the competencies, first what I've noticed is that they definitely see more traction, but also they start noticing more impactful change. So both financial returns, but also more meaningful learning for everyone in the company. And this dynamic is definitely reflected in the questions we are getting for C-suite and executives. So I have to say, last year it was all about what are the use cases, preferably like hundreds of use cases. So it was all about this ideation phase. But now it is much more, where do I focus to actually deliver business impact? And how do I avoid this like dilutive outcomes, so basically spreading efforts too thinly. And that really links to this aspect of like, now it is important to get the full picture. So not only where the value is, but also how to actually achieve that value. And that goes to investment, it goes also to skills that are required to actually drive the change. And at EY, we have been supporting our clients on that journey, leveraging EY AI Value Accelerator, which is a proprietary toolkit that helps and accelerates by combining all those competencies in the process of defining AI strategy and path to value. And something that I wanted to highlight from that, bringing this like skill aspect into the picture, is that a big part of what we do is actually translating the impact of AI into business terms. And to do that, we actually develop an investment-grade business case. So in that process, what we do is we quantify impact of AI across the value chain of the business, expressing it in an EBITDA bridge, so basically seeing where the big value pockets are. But the second part is also for the opportunities that have the best strategic fit, but also the most promising value potential. We actually define implementation pathways. So for this specific company, how can you get there? And also the costing profiles for it. And why is it important? Because that really allows companies to understand much deeper those opportunities. So what is return on investment that we are getting? What is the payback period? And I've seen use cases that have payback period of 10 years. Maybe not the best starting point. And that also allows to have that common language in the company, encourages executive buy-in, but also makes sure that, and I think that is a really important part, that actually talent and resources get allocated to the opportunities that can actually drive meaningful impact on that business. And, from that perspective at EY, we are no different. We are a big global company with many complexities. So we have been on the journey of becoming an AI-first company ourselves. And I have to say, it came with a lot of successes, a lot of challenges. And actually what is quite interesting is that we actually used Value Accelerator on ourselves first. So we were the client zero in that process. But I know, Charlotta, that you have been involved a lot in our own journey and transformation. So it would be really cool to hear a bit of your reflections on what went great, what maybe was more challenging, and where are we heading?
Yes, so our own client zero case, our own AI journey, we have learned a lot. So some of the decisions that we took that has served us well, first of all, is that we decided to invest early. And so far, we have invested $1.4 billion in our Gen AI activities. We also decided to acquire top AI talent. While, of course, in parallel upskilling our full workforce, we also realized that niche AI skills are key for us in order to get us to where we want to get to. We also have shifted to private cloud and centralized data to have that foundation in place. And as Barbara just said, we used the Value Accelerator on ourselves as a client zero case. So we navigated 800 use cases, but focused on 20 opportunities, leveraging that exact methodology and approach. Cut AI decision to 8 to 10 weeks. Of course, we also encountered obstacles. We also experienced proof of concept fatigue. We manage more than 1,000 proof of concepts globally. From a regulatory perspective, we navigated more than 17,000 systems to align with our policies. That's time-consuming work. We have trained our workforce of 400,000 people, including our executives and partners. And we balanced speed, risk, and ethical AI and developed a responsible AI framework. So today we have 7 high-level and 44 detailed AI processes that guides everything we do in AI. We created EYQ that has served us very well. And what is EYQ? It's ChatGPT combined with our EY curated data inside our own walls. We have more than 850 Azure instances providing this technology to a large number of our people. We have, of course, generated a lot of AI-powered code, more than 4 million lines. 83% of our workforce is trained in AI today. And of course, everyone that are more detailing in their work around AI, of course, develop and continuously train themselves in all the different AI initiatives and programs we have. As a result of us building this solid and strong foundation, we were able a few weeks ago to launch 150 AI agents who are facilitating the work of 80,000 of our risk, finance, and tax professionals, supporting them in their daily works. And this architecture is built on the NVIDIA Enterprise Stack. And in addition to supporting our own people, our own operations, we also build client solutions, industry-specific solutions. And one example is the Telecom.ai suite of solutions that is geared towards specifically the telecom industry, and that we launched at Mobile World Congress, a suite of solutions of agentic AI. So, we've given you a bit of the state of the nation in terms of facts and figures. We talked you through a bit on how to get to the path to value, and we shared some of our lessons learned. And on that note, I am super excited to now invite up on stage a fantastic group of panelists. So please welcome up Kirsty Fitzgibbon. She's a VP and Head of Marketing Communications, Ericsson Cloud Services, Software and Services. Alexandra Fürst, Group CTIO, Telia Company. Therese Treutiger, Director, Global Partner Solutions and Innovations at Microsoft. And Barbara will stay and... We'll skip the movie. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So lovely to have you here. And I'll ask you to introduce yourself first and give me also one sentence on how you are engaging with AI today. I'll start with you, Therese.
Yeah, so Therese Treutiger, I'm working for Microsoft in Sweden and part of the Swedish leadership team, and I'm responsible for everything we do with our partners here in Sweden. AI is my #1 priority every day, every hour, every minute, I would say.
Lovely. Kirsty.
Yes, so Kirsty Fitzgibbon. I work for Ericsson, and I head up marketing and communications for one of our business areas, which is cloud services and software. AI, I'm involved in both from a marketing communication transformation perspective, but also within cloud software and services. We're doing some pretty exciting stuff in the AI space and Gen AI, so also involved in that.
Cool. Alexandra.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Fürst. I joined Telia just a couple of weeks ago, actually, as a part of the executive management team. I am heading up the technologies unit and has the role CTIO. But to your point then, yes, AI is on top of the agenda for me, of course.
And Barbara, you lead our AI initiatives from our powerhouse EYP, our strategy department.
So I'm a Nordic AI strategy leader at EY, but also working with clients on the topic, but also actively engaged in our own upskilling and transformation, since it is impacting also us in the consulting industry, and also a very active user both at work and in private life.
Cool. I want to double down a bit on skills. So Barbara started to talk about some of the skills we need. So the technical skills are given. We need the software developers, the machine learning, the data scientists, and so on. But in order for us to get to the business value, the return on investment, we need financial modeling. We need to upscale the C-suite. We saw that we're lagging in Sweden, right? We need to ensure we work with change management. And how do we do strategic workforce planning when part of your workforces will be AI agents in some time?
I think it was super exciting what you brought up, Barbara, on stage, because, again, AI, you could consider it as a tool, if you like, but a very powerful tool. But it's nothing without the other components. So I think it was a very good slide that you showed, that when you combine the change management, the business, and the tech, that's when you get the magic. And I think that's also perhaps why we see a lot of POCs and pilots currently not really scaling. It's been like it's a startup thinking in a sense, trying out stuff, but not really getting to the scale up. And I think that's exactly the need to upskill everyone, because AI is not only tech, right? It's a lot of different things that you need to have to drive the change.
Right.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's not about technology. You actually need to understand the processes. You need actually to be a nurse with a tech competence. So we have a huge upskill work for us that we really need to take.
Agree. Kirsty?
No, absolutely. And one of the things that we're finding is that with AI is you really have to understand the risk and the regulations. So now we all need to understand EU AI regulations. We need to understand GDPR. You know, we really need to understand the data. And some of those skills are just not innate in all of us. I know I didn't grow up learning all those skills and didn't come into Ericsson knowing those skills. So we've really got to be clear on what is it we expect from our colleagues now, and how do we equip them with those skills to make sure that we can navigate this path in the best possible way, but also in line with the guardrails that we need around new regulations. And we're learning all the time.
And I think that's a good point. And we saw that already last year, we saw in our global studies that Nordic enterprises are more risk avert, while at the same time not proactively addressing that risk by implementing that proactive holistic risk governance. Why do you think that is, in terms of, in order for us to create that holistic risk governance framework, you need to come together cross-functional? Is that a challenge? Or what do you think is the reason we're not actively putting that in place so we can unleash the power? If I stay with you first.
I think is, again, we're kind of all new into this. So, you know, we're quite used to, especially with big multinationals, working a little bit in your silos as much as we always try against that. So I think it is very much coming together at a company level to really drive a strategy which is coherent and collaborative, but also you have one shining North Star to follow. And I think that's where we can then bring it in together and make a framework which can be used across the business in the most efficient way. And that we're not just thinking our own little areas. So open it up, and but make it top on the agenda, but also really cross-domain.
Any reflections?
I want to build on that. I think collaboration in general, right? Not only perhaps within the companies, but across companies and across geographies. There's a lot of learnings to share that you could facilitate and perhaps make it even faster, the progress that we see. So I think collaboration, it's really not that one is the strongest here. It's about finding the collaborations and the connections across companies, but again, across businesses. I think that's an untapped potential.
Agree. And what do you think we need to do to sort of manage that risk so that we can unleash the power?
I mean, we come with an IT structure that is, and also the process structure and all the system. It's a lot of legacy. It's quite old systems. It is super old in public sector. You need actually to take a totally different approach, and it needs to be very disruptive. And you need to be bold, you need to have courage to do that, but also then to bring in different kind of knowledge and skills that you are not used to. If you're a company with just the management team and you are able to decide everything, you actually need to bring in people who knows the processes. And I think that is a huge change.
Agree. And we encounter this question quite much when we meet our clients. Anything you would like to add, Barbara, in terms of that risk governance and how important that is to get in place?
So at least from my perspective, it is really important that, like successful AI journeys will not only be, there's no one person that can solve it all. So you kind of need to master what AI means in your domain, but you also need to understand what it takes to answer the question and almost master the skill of leveraging other people's strengths in solving that problem together. Because, and I think to your point, Kirsty, if business users are really eager, but they're like, okay, if I use it, maybe I'm doing something wrong or not ethical, it will block them. So it's really this like almost like mastering the usage of each other's strengths in working towards the common goal together.
Good point. I'll gear this to you first, Kirsty. So AI was not born in November 2022. That was ChatGPT that got available to the public. Ericsson has, of course, leveraged AI for a long time. Autonomous networks, closed loops, very advanced products and solutions. How are you leveraging Gen AI to sort of further develop the network efficiency, energy efficiencies, etc.? And how do you use Gen AI to develop product and services on top of the networks?
Yeah, great question. And you're right, AI in Ericsson started 15 years ago, and that was born out of a very simple need to simplify how we manage our operations. And now it's changing, it's transforming the industry. So now we're doing some really exciting stuff, and I just want to share one of the cases that we have. We've partnered up with DNB in Malaysia.
Right.
So they're pretty unique in their setup because they have a single 5G wholesale network, and they're actually operating on behalf of 6 operators. And so it's huge data, huge complexity, and large number of subscriptions. And what we've actually been working with them is on intent-based operations. So this is where we're helping them to operate and optimize their network so they can differentiate how well their network is performing.
Right.
And the level of subscriber experience. And we've used Gen AI, we've used digital twins to actually use that technology to ensure that the networks are run in not a reactive way, but very predictive,
Right.
and proactive. And it's produced some quite staggering changes in, both in how they are perceived, the customer experience, but also the operations. So, and on top of that, we're building things like our apps. Now I'm going to geek out a bit, but on top of the network, then we have software applications that can help automate the radio access network.
Right.
And there again, we're using large language models, Gen AI, and agentic AI frameworks.
Cool.
And again, that's enabling us to support our customers in ways that we never could before. So super exciting.
Cool. And you represent the communication service provider, telco operator. I am amazed by the power of connectivity and the enormous potential we still have to tap into that. What's your view on how we can leverage that powerful power of connectivity to create value-added services and products?
Yeah, I'm super excited being in this business and being within technology. I think it's a very exciting times for sure. But the need for connectivity, it's increasing as we speak, right? Because it's a lot of data consumption that we need to take care of and master. And I think for both enterprises and for us end users, right, there is a lot of untapped potential to be found. We don't need to go to autonomous car. We can just think about this. We talked about AI, right, and how we're going to use AI, and we want to use it at a certain place at a certain time, right? So we really connectivity. Of course, it's the future, right? Because that's what I represent. But I really believe in that. There is a good potential for it. And back to you, Kirsty, as you described, we believe a lot in partnership. Again, we're not good on our own. We need to find collaboration and partnership. So we have big trust in both Microsoft, of course, and Ericsson to also be on top of AI and invest. And for example, with Ericsson, we are doing innovative collaboration together, and that I think that's a very interesting perspective. We also bring in customers. So industrial customers together with Ericsson and our Telia in Sweden, we're really driving the future, I would say. So definitely a lot of untapped potential to be found, and I think that the way to do it is to balance the innovative part, but also with, of course, where do we find the value? Back to our question that we should answer today, because that's the tricky part, right? To find the areas where we want to invest because we know it's going to give value, and the areas we want to try out because we know eventually we'll find something really, really good that we want to build on.
Right. The North Star initiative is a brilliant example. And let's stay on ecosystem partnership. I'll start with you, Therese. This is something that is very close to our heart, and I think if we just take a perspective, Sweden has a huge, fantastic industrial heritage. We have high digital maturity. We are a hub for tech innovation and entrepreneurship. We have a high ratio of unicorns per capita. All the prerequisites are there for us to really lead in AI, but still we're lagging. Maybe a missing component, you touched upon it, all of you already. Maybe we need to increase the capability around ecosystem partnerships between private and public, between small companies, large enterprises, scale-ups and startups. So let's delve into that. I'll start with you, Therese. What's your perspective?
Yeah. You said the right words here, I would say. No, but it's quite complex. AI, and actually really to implement AI, to leverage the capabilities of AI, you need to understand your processes, you need to understand your market, you need to understand your customers. So it's quite complex. It's a complex ecosystem of partners, spearhead industry, smaller startup or scale-ups who can actually contribute to your business. And I think that's, I'm not going to flatter you too much, but I think that's why you need the industry knowledge that EY brings in, because you can actually attract and you can attach all that competence for the telcos, for example, but also in manufacturing where you're super strong, for example. And because the capacity, you need to deliver that in a model that is relevant for you, the customers, so you can win market share and you can be competitive. And that is how you build the ecosystem. You cannot do it solely by yourself. I really don't believe in that. And I really haven't seen that happen. You need someone who's done it before, and that's also how you scale. You repeat, you repeat, you repeat, and you learn from that as well.
Fully agree. One of our studies actually showed that the digital transformation leaders, the absolute majority of them, they excel in ecosystem partnerships. What's your perspective, Kirsten?
No, I totally agree with everything you just said then, and I think, you know, we aren't islands as companies, and we also need, as in the industry, to be partnering and building ecosystems with academia.
Yes.
You know, we can't just think about ourselves as big multinationals. You know, we've got to think about how do we get those skills in the first place. And I think it's really, really important that academia has a loud voice in this, and that we start right back from STEM and schools, and then we take it through to research and universities, and then that collaboration and that ecosystem where academia meets industry, and that's where you apply those learnings and that research. And then from an industry point of view, we can help to scale that and to invest.
Yeah.
So I love the ecosystems that go broader than just industry to industry.
Yeah. I really must emphasize what you say about academia, because we can really see that. I mean, we are an engineer company or engineer country.
Yes.
And we love to have science embedded in our decisions. So bringing in universities, high schools, professors, I think that's super important for us to accelerate.
We also see that correlation if we look at the EU AI index, that companies that have a strong collaboration between public and private, they also outperform. Your perspective?
No, I think it's been said, right? I believe in that. I believe in partnership and collaboration to really get the best ideas out. The important stuff perhaps to emphasize is that there is a problem to be solved in the middle, and that's normally a customer problem. So that's where we start. So I think to put the customer first and the needs that we see or problems that we see, that will help facilitate. And it's also much easier to line up around the customer than to invent for invent's sake, in a sense. So that would be my compliment, but really strong power in collaboration.
Agree. Barbara, anything to add to that?
I guess maybe the aspect of speed. So I think partnerships are extremely important, but just looking how this technology is evolving is just purely impossible for one company to crack it all.
Yeah.
It's just too fast. I remember, I think it was January when every day you wake up and something big has happened. So I think that is the part as well, that just like if you want to keep up, like you won't be able to do it on your own.
Final question. We also touched upon that, investments and capital. So in order for us to be successful, we need to attract more investment capital to Sweden as a country, but we also need to ensure that we prioritize the right investments. So if we look at the sort of overall technology roadmap and how Gen AI can accelerate some transformations, how can we work in an integrated approach to reallocate capital? Because we need more, but we also need to be clever with the capital we have. If I can just have the key top perspective from all of you, and I'll start with you, Barbara.
So I think it is important that since the technology is changing quite fast, we also review where we are allocating capital as of now. So for example, with a lot of clients, what we are discussing is that they have those like really long transformations, and like should they stay the course or should they actually review? Maybe they can do things cheaper, faster, get the better value out of it. So it's, I would say, like, it is important to review those like big decisions quite regularly these days. And I'm not saying, you know, rip everything apart, but just making sure that you are not on like a very long journey that could be actually short with the new things coming.
Alexandra?
Having a bit of pragmatic approach, I believe in including, again, back to AI is a tool, if you'd like, and to really see it as such, and also include it in the normal processes that we have in companies. You could have the strategy process or the budget process, but to make it a natural part of that, not being something on the side. We saw that a couple of years ago with sustainability.
Exactly.
That was a bit on the side. Now it's a natural part of a business strategy, and I think we should not have a specific AI strategy. We should have a business strategy, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's the approach I'm representing, to really build it in the everyday discussions and everyday work.
Fully agree. Kirsty?
Super good point on embedding it, absolutely. If I think about sort of building sort of the roadmap for your tech stack as a company, one, it's embedding AI into there as well, but also back to your point, Barbara, about being able to have a vision and a roadmap, but the agility to shift. As you said, things are changing so fast. What we plan now will be obsolete in maybe 6 months' time. So, you know, that agility to be able to move very quickly, and I think sometimes we struggle with that. So, agility.
Fully agree. Therese?
Yes, I would actually, you are not stronger. I think you need actually to embrace much more of what is happening around you, and also to be open to competitors. And some of the more disruptive companies that we can see now is using AI, and they just jump, they take a digital leap, and they are world leading. So don't get stuck in the old legacy that you have. Be disruptive, always have a disruptive mindset, and always be on a learning path. So maybe learning path, and if I have to choose one.
Perfect. I think we heard a lot of very smart and insightful perspectives. We touched upon everything from capital, investments, reallocation of capital, the importance of collaboration between all parties. Agility was mentioned, and ensuring Gen AI is a part of the overall strategy. Like you mentioned with sustainability, it's a big sort of correlation to that development. Any final comments before we thank every one of you? Is there anything we've forgotten to mention? How do we get successful?
I have something on my mind, perhaps not right in the spot, but I had a discussion with a colleague before going here, of course, talking about AI, and she said, you know, you should tell everyone to be a really good prompter. And I like
Yes.
that. So I
Yes.
want to share that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that, if you take that to a normal dialogue like we're having right now, right? If you have ask the right questions, you also
Yes.
get a really good answer. So that would be my final, be a good prompter.
Be a good prompter. And on that note, I thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and brilliant insights. A big applaud to the fantastic panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to contact us afterwards, here's my contact information. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.